Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Edwin. I'm here with Shawande, and we are talking about outsourcing of jobs and the impact it's having on us as Virgin Islanders and on our economy, and what are some of the things that we can possibly do about it. Now, Shawande, and let me open up the lines. The phone number is going to come up on the screen. You can text or you can call and get in on the discussion, ask questions, make a comment. Yeah. When this economy started expanding, and when financial services and tourism started to develop to the extent that it has now, many Virgin Islanders went out and mortgaged their land and built apartment buildings because there was a greater demand for housing. Our supermarkets, a couple of more supermarkets developed, large supermarkets developed. There was an increased demand for food, all types of services, restaurants, department stores, clothing stores. There was a lot of development as a result of the influx of migrant worker, the infusion of the development of businesses, the trust businesses, the tourism businesses, investment. And so local persons invested right along in the market as it developed. Now, when you start to cut back, when you start to contract the market, when you start laying off people that live and work in the territory, whether they are Virgin Islanders or migrant workers, you're talking about migrant workers perhaps going back to their country or going to another jurisdiction. You're talking about Virgin Islanders who really have no place to go, so have to go around either looking for a government job, try to start a little business. And as you see many of us on the side of the road trying to sell coconuts or kinnips or ground produce or something, local crafts. You see many of us going to those types of businesses. And so a situation is developing where we won't be able to pay our rents or our mortgages, and the persons that used to live in those apartments that we built when the market was expanding will leave, either can't pay the rent or leave the jurisdiction altogether, and we won't be able to pay the banks for the building. What's going to happen to that investment? What's going to happen to those buildings? The bank is going to foreclose, and the bank has already foreclosed on many local properties. Many local brothers and sisters who I know had apartment buildings, the bank has foreclosed on them. Many brothers and sisters right now are in trouble financially with their small businesses, with their apartments, with their homes, and their general investment. And then, of course, we don't have a cadre or pool of local persons who are able to even keep our lands from being expatriated. You understand?
And people have been speaking about a land bank for the longest while. For
the longest while.
I'm not sure if this government will take it up. I mean, I didn't get to hear the speech from the throne, but whether in this particular
I didn't hear anything about the land bank in it.
Session or before the 4 years is up, whether that's something they're going to take up.
So you have a situation being created where, with this behavior of the various businesses in the trust industry in particular, where they want to outsource their work that we used to do into the cheaper labor market, is going to create a serious economic hardship on us, and we are standing to lose our investment. Now, our representatives have to take a serious look at that. Now, I heard the Honorable Myron Waldron said that he was concerned. He sounded upset. But the thing is, what is he able to do? What can he do? What can be done? Should it be a situation where we call a meeting with the trust industry and say, hey, you're going to hurt my people. We have to come to some kind of agreement, or are we going to go to our other brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, the Turks and Caicos, Cayman, Bermuda, Anguilla, Nevis, all of the jurisdictions that are competing for the tourist industry and for the
financial services,
the tourist industry as well. But for the financial services industry, are we going to form an alliance, an international alliance with those people, so that when a trust company wants to go to another jurisdiction because of some legislation that's being passed, that the legislation is developed all across the board, so it's like jumping from the same thing into the same thing, and then that way we protect not only the industry, but we protect our people as well. I mean, that's one way I see as being a solution, because these people are exerting tremendous power and pressure on our economy.
Well, doing nothing is not an option, because we can see what's happening here in the Virgin Islands. Employment is a major concern. And why I said that the government hasn't really shown that much concern about employment is because perhaps we had the public sector there that was absorbing so many people. And I mean, anybody, could have gotten a government job as long as you're a Virgin Islander. I mean, parents would expect that, you're going to give them a government job, the children a government job when they came out of high school or came out of college. Anytime you have somebody come home from college, they get a summer job. I mean, these are this type of expectations. But the situation of our government right now is, the recurrent revenue, the recurrent expenditure is such a large percentage of our budget. It's such a large percentage, I mean, just salaries alone, and it's unsustainable. The government cannot employ people as it used to. We just spoke about the lack of enforcement of the work permit situation, and there are certain jobs that Virgin Islanders over the last 20 years or so have not tried to get into, maybe in the tourism industry. And so we have a real problem in terms of Virgin Islanders being gainfully employed in the private sector. Also, we could speak about businesses, because Virgin Islanders love to open up their own businesses, but you see the businesses struggling now. Many businesses closing down. And
you see business opportunities that we should have being taken advantage of by persons from outside of the country and given and being facilitated to take advantage of those opportunities, whereas our National Business Bureau seems to be crawling and struggling to really come into its own and really do the things that it is supposed to it is envisioned to do. So I see that as a challenge.
Can small businesses survive in today's Virgin Islands economy? So employment is a huge concern, and so and just like I said, in the United States, the president is looking at the job numbers. We have to look at the job numbers as well, and we have to do something. What you suggested in terms of going to the other overseas territories? I think we already in partnership in them in terms of the Overseas Territories Council. We should
use those institutions to help to strengthen.
I'm not sure. I think only recently we started to form this type of council that we have, so that when we go to meetings in the UK,
we have one head.
Where the UK usually has meetings with the overseas territories, that we could hold one head, as you said. Now only started recently, but we should be speaking a lot more about what's happening in our particular jurisdictions and how we could work together and form some unity. One other thing I really think that we need to do is we have to decide if we're going to adopt Anguilla's policy. I mean, you spoke about Anguilla's policy in terms that they're just interested in the fees. Are we going to adopt that policy? or because right now the policy that we have adopted, that the one that you articulated earlier, doesn't seem to be we don't seem to be serious about it.
Well, interestingly enough, though, that policy has brought us tremendous benefits.
Well, in terms of the employment,
and opportunities to progress in that industry has brought us tremendous benefits. It seems, though, that it's not even a question of whether we are going to follow the Anguilla model. It seems to me that we are being forced to follow the Anguilla model.
But this is the thing. What have the leaders done about it? We've gotten some employment at the lower end of the ladder, and it seems like some of that employment that we got on the lower end of the ladder potentially may abandon us for a low-wage destination.
Yes.
We never really achieved some of the high-end jobs that we wanted within the industry. So as you say,
but we have gotten to a certain level in the industry where we were able to do something practical for ourselves, whether to buy a home or to improve our quality of life then.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with the current situation, are we going to do something? Or
even that it seems as though we are not going to be afforded the opportunity to have at least that enhanced quality of life, that middle management job used to provide for us.
Yeah, I personally think that we should try to hold on to those jobs.
Yes, and our government needs to do something about it. And the question is, I know the Honorable Wildwin has spoken out loudly to his credit about it. The question is, what is he going to do? What is his solution?
What is the whole government going to do?
And what is he going to be able to persuade the government to do?
Because I would like to hear more members speak out again. I would like to hear, I hear within this statement, this official statement by the Labour Minister, seems to be, in my view, sanctioning the action.
At least vacillating.
Or vacillating.
Yeah, at least.
But what I read here is when it says realistically we can expect that when a firm has to lay off workers, that some of those workers will be BVI landlords.
So it's something for us to expect and accept. Now, one other thing that we keep saying about the government that I'm concerned about, given the economic situation of the territory, when we say that the government can't employ everybody and we need to develop the private sector, I think everyone would agree with that. But if you have a situation in a small, and this is a small island state, this is a small country with 30,000 people, and I often say that's smaller than many college campuses, where you have the government as the major receiver of income. You know, it's not like the government is just running the economy and you have a vibrant, thriving private sector that's employing most of the people. The government is employing around 3,500 people. And the government is, from the trust company particularly, from the trust industry, the financial services sector, the government is receiving a significant portion of that money. In tourism, for example, more of the money circulates into the public hands for distribution. But in the financial services sector, most of the money circulates into government's hand for distribution. So government becomes then, in this economic model, a major distributor of money from the most vibrant sector, which is 60% of the national budget. So yes, we have to develop the private sector, but that development is going to have to come if financial services is a sector, a major sector. That development is going to have to come in financial services. We are going to have to increase it in tourism. Right now, the DPU statistics and the Tourist Board statistics say that we have a 30% market share. Local hotels and villas and inns and so on, small properties, the local small properties have a 30% market share in the tourism industry. We have at best a 5% share of the of the financial services industry. So certainly a balance, and if we talk about a balance in economic development and investment, certainly local investment would have to go to at least 30 or 40% in the financial services sector, and an additional 20% in the tourism sector in order for us to achieve real balance. But instead, it seems as though we continue to keep our dependence on foreign investment.
I would really like to address that particular point. It's a good point. But before I do that, I would like to address the government being able to circulate the money. It's very important for government to circulate the money throughout the economy because of what you described. The tourism and financial services get direct monies from outside of the particular economy. That's how the money comes in.
That's how the money comes to the territory.
So it will come directly to the financial services companies, and they'll give us a portion of that. It will come directly to the hotels, so on and so forth, and some of our own local villas as well. The money would come in directly through them, and then they give the government some particular fees.
And distribute some through jobs and
salaries and giving out contracts to government contracts for contractors.
Right, and so on.
What I think we need to do is we need to develop some more businesses that can get money directly, and we're going to address that when it comes to tourism as well. Get money directly coming from outside of the territory. And also we need to develop businesses that will trap the money here. Because the problem we are experiencing in terms of the private sector performing better is that when you get your salary from government and then you go to St. Thomas and you spend all of that money is leaving the economy. Now, if that money stays here and bounces back and forth between all our brothers and sisters as much as possible, we'll be doing a lot better than just having that money leave immediately back on the next plane out. So our private sector does have to perform better to be able to trap money and to bring money in directly. But the point you made in terms of tourism, as I said, we have to decide whether we're going to accept the Anguilla model. If we accept the Anguilla model and we decide we're not going to try to hold on to jobs here at the lower end of the financial services sector, we have to have another place to shift those workers. And many people are suggesting that we have to strengthen tourism, and I agree with that. But the model that we want to follow now is to bring in foreign investors, and of course we can bring in some foreign investors, but I would like to see a model where there's more partnership, more of an equal partnership, less of an ability for a company to make a decision that will hurt Virgin Islanders workers. And for me, we have some models of that, and it's the investment club model. You see what they did with our CCT, buying up the different yacht harbors and so on. You see what they did with ocean conversion. We need, if you ask me, at least 50% ownership, so that we can have a seat at the table when some of the decisions that will have an impact on our people are being discussed, and we could say, look, that's going to help hurt Virgin Islands workers. We're not going to adopt that policy, even though that potentially might lead to greater profits. It's going to have a big social impact on the Virgin Islands. For me, that's the benefit of ownership.
Yes,
you are around the table and you can make decisions in the best interest of your people.
You could become stewards of your people, of your country. Now, I think that's to me the important model that we need to take a look at. What you just made there, and it starts with us preserving the opportunities, the economic opportunities that develop internally for us to do our small businesses in the territory to grow into medium-sized businesses. And then eventually those medium-sized businesses grow to the point where they are then attracting money from the outside. They're not just circulating the money when it comes in through the trust companies and the major hotels, but they are also, that money is also coming directly into their hands as a bigger company as well. We're going to take a break and we're going to explore that development model and see what in fact our government is doing and can do to facilitate that model, and whether this continued drive to get these large projects and these large foreign investors is actually in the best interest of our self-sustainability, in the best interest of Virgin Island growth and development, or it's just for a few persons who are going to be able to benefit from these large schemes and have other BVI lenders marginalized. We're going to take a break. We're going to come right back with that discussion. Keep it locked right here to Spotlight.
Spotlight is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Tortola Concrete Limited, and CCT Global Communications.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Medjuenka and I'm here with Shawanda. We've been having a great conversation about outsourcing and economic development and what we need to start taking a look at to see how we can stem the tide of outsourcing, as well as try to minimize our dependence on businesses that really are only interested in their bottom line and not interested in having a responsibility for a country and the people of that country, so that everybody enjoys a good quality of life. And I think that we need to start looking at how we are going to shift that model of economic development and that thinking, not just in ourselves but in our governments as well. And basically all of our governments have been employing the same model, no matter what they say on the campaign speech, on the campaign trail, when they're in elective office. That everybody thinks that model, the model of having major foreign investment with major capital projects, is the way to go, and that's how we are going to be sustainable. That's how we are going to provide food, clothing, and shelter for ourselves. And I think the trust companies are demonstrating to us that is not necessarily the best model, because when you become dependent on foreign investment to the extent that you are unable to protect your people from economic doom and harm, then you have to take a second look at that model and see how you're going to take a policy direction shift. The numbers are on the screen. If you want to call, make a contribution, ask a question, feel free to do that. Or if you don't want your voice heard, you can send us a text as well. We'd be happy to read it and see what your input is regarding what we are saying this evening.
Can I say, Edranko, while you're bringing that up?
Yes.
If you read the white paper, the United Kingdom recognizes that we need to diversify our economy. In fact, even before the white paper came out, there was a report by a guy called Michael Foote. This was around the time of that big G20 meeting, speaking about financial services, jurisdictions, and whether you're going to be on the black list, the gray list, or the white list. And Michael Foote went around doing a little report in terms of, I guess, maybe what's the potential impact on the offshore jurisdictions if we take a hit in financial services. One of the first things he says in that document, that these overseas territories are way too dependent on financial services and tourism, and we need to diversify the economy. I saw that same sentiment reflected in the white paper, and it would seem as though the United Kingdom may see diversifying the economy as an opportunity to promote business for UK companies, because they said explicitly in the white paper that they will encourage UK businesses to pursue business opportunities in the overseas territories. So there's a recognition that we need to diversify the economy, just because of the insecurity of just relying on financial services and tourism.
But in my view, diversification of the economy is not the main point. In my view, ownership.
Absolutely.
Ownership of the economy is what makes us secure and what makes us sustainable as a people, as nationals of our country, as persons who are living in the territory and who wants to be able to provide, to depend on each other,
yes,
to provide food, clothing, and shelter for each other.
So ownership, absolutely important. But beyond just the ownership, it is important, in my view, to diversify, because if you put all the eggs in one basket,
absolutely,
anything can happen.
Absolutely.
And in the white paper, they identified fishing.
Yes.
As an area for possible diversification. Yeah. Now, I would be real disappointed if UK companies came down here to exploit our vast fishing waters, and as you said, Virgin Island companies want in on the action.
Well, you see, this is why I stress ownership, because if we develop the fishing industry, and foreigners come in and develop that industry and control that industry, just like we are beginning to develop the alternative energy industry,
yes,
and foreigners come in and own that industry, our situation remains the same.
Yeah.
We have diversified our economy, but we still don't own our economy. The situation continues to remain the same, that we are being dictated to. The government will continue, and you and I as nationalists, sure, one day we'll get elected in government, and we'll, during the campaign trail, we'll talk about all these grand ideas that we have and all these philosophies that we have about increasing BVI lender participation in the economy and so on. And when we get into government and the owners of the economy sit us down and talk to us, and we get to the realization of the situation, we will begin to understand that, listen, in order to help, we might have a little more courage perhaps, but in order to maintain a good quality of life for your people, you are going to have to acquiesce and backpedal on some of your nationalist views. I mean, and so we need to start with a policy of some policies that is going to take us out of that situation over time. It's not going to be a quick fix. It's got to be carefully, strategically done. But it's something that has to be done. And we left off talking about it, and I want to continue talking about it. And the fact is that if Virgin Islanders have small businesses. They start off with small businesses because they don't have that vast capital to build major infrastructure and build great variety in inventory and have great marketing strategies. So they start off with small businesses. What happens is the economy expands, and they begin to grow into the expansion of that economy. Now, what has happened over a few years, maybe the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, is that some of our governments have allowed foreign businesses slightly larger than our local businesses, who have more capital for develop infrastructure, more capital for increase in variety of inventory, and more capital for marketing, to come in and gobble up the market share that those small businesses were expanding in. So what happens is that stunts the growth of the small business, and the small business never becomes a business that is able now to compete on an international level and be one of those businesses that actually bring the money into the territory.
And the thing that I hear, which I don't really like, when you have a foreign investor coming in here, just make sure you have a local store, a local investor right next to them, so that potentially some people may not like what they see in the bigger store, and they might come to your store. Something will trickle down to you. I don't think it works. It doesn't work. I think the model that we have to follow is protecting our businesses, but not protecting them to the point, because whenever we speak about protecting, we think we're protecting low quality, bad service, and we're protecting a bunch of corrupt business owners to able to kill us with the high prices and the bad quality of service. That's not what it is I'm suggesting whatsoever.
And certainly we have to monitor that situation and make sure that those businesses that we are protecting and giving those advantages to are also good stewards of the community, and making sure that the people get a good price, a fair price.
Yeah.
They make a fair profit, we get a fair price, and the country grow. We all grow together.
Yeah. So I'm against giving businesses any type of incentives, and they don't have any responsibilities to their consumers.
That's right.
You talk about price control. Business owners don't like the concept of price control. But if I'm giving you a concession, you may be duty free on some type of product.
If I'm giving you the people's money,
I'm giving you the people's money
in some form, then you have to give the people something back.
I have to require that you could only have a certain markup on that particular item. We shouldn't be saying we import computers or chicken or books duty free or something like that, and then I'm still seeing some exorbitant prices.
And you're taking the extra money that I'm allowing you to put in your pocket.
So, government should take steps to ensure. But the reality is, for small businesses to grow and develop, that business bureau has to be developed. And that business bureau has to help to identify opportunities, provide data analysis of the sector, all types of different functions. And the main goal is to help to develop that particular business. We need to take policies that will ensure that the small businesses grow, that the overhead costs are not too high, that perhaps maybe some of our business owners can come together and work together to maybe source some of the inventory together. Let's take a look at some members of our community who originate from the Arabic part of the world, right? Some people say that our businesses can't compete locally. So how is it that the brothers and sisters from the Arabic part of the community come to different communities around the BVI and they're able to offer much better prices? They're able to compete at a much larger level. They're even competing with some of these big foreign businesses. Perhaps maybe now you could shop in some of their stores versus going out to St. Thomas to shop or something like that. It's because they practice a certain degree of unity.
Unity is the key to their success.
Yes, and it's possible for us to provide a proper value, give the consumers good value for their money if we were to adopt some of the practices that they are practicing themselves. I think in every sector where we are, we can compete a lot better than we are without inviting the pressure of a big foreign investor who, once they put you out of business and the market is theirs,
they could price whatever they want to price.
The prices will be sky high.
Yeah.
And there's more security in local investment
and local ownership.
And if we look at CCT as a model, I've heard you say this a number of times at Juanca, the amount of local people that they have employed.
85% of CCT employees are local.
And absolutely, I don't ever call CCT and they take me to a call center somewhere around the world, which that call center causes you to lose jobs locally.
Yes.
So we need to be owners so that we can be at the table and make decisions.
Well, the other thing too is, do we have to, in order for us to attract tourists to the territory, do we have to have these big major projects that we can't fund and build ourselves? Or can we have nice looking smaller projects that we are able to build? Let's say, for example, let's take the cruise ship development. Could we have built a nice waterfront project that is less expensive, facilitate local investment, local construction, and they have a local design, and build a nice looking facility on the cruise ship dock that we could own, and have that money funneled into our community instead of bringing somebody from someplace else to make those hundreds of millions of dollars over time and us continue to remain dependent on those investors.
It's the wrong model to follow. The thing that we're trying to do in terms of that particular cruise project, what I saw on the table, I believe that's the wrong model to follow. You give a foreign investor the same amount of power that we're complaining about that the financial services industry has over us. You're actually giving them the leverage. Give yourself the leverage as much as possible. That's my particular view on it.
Yeah, I agree with you. We fall under the tyranny of the clock. But I think that we have to start looking with all the developments that's taken place, with the UK exerting more control, with the trust companies laying off our people and wanting to outsource the work that we used to do. With all the things that's happening in the world and is happening in our environment, we need to begin to take a more serious look at what is important to us, what's in our best interest, and what is going to assist in development of the people of the Virgin Islands.
Absolutely, I'm there with you 100%.
I think that we need to take a critical look. But this situation, as it has developed, certainly, in my view, and I'm sure you agree with me, is a dangerous situation. This outsourcing is a dangerous situation. We have expanded as a result of the investment in our economy, this foreign investment. We have taken opportunity to invest, and if these people are going to take away those jobs, they are going to put our investment in great danger and great risk, and the only persons that are going to be able to buy up our property are those same foreign investors.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about losing our country, we have no control of the economy, so in a sense, we have already lost. And if we continue down that road, I think we will experience a physical loss of the land. One of the things that I tried to do over the last several weeks was to find out, because we talk about, and I hear some realtors talk about Virgin Islands still owning a considerable portion of the land, and how we own 85% of the land. Well, that might be true in the sense that we have ownership on paper.
Yeah.
But the question to me is, how much of our land is mortgaged to the banks?
Yeah.
That's to me the important question. I've been trying.
And you see them selling it in the newspaper all the time.
I've been trying to find out, and there's another thing, we don't gather the statistical data that we need for good governance. I don't know how we make decisions, but we don't. Every time I'm trying to find information, I always have to go through a struggle, or I have to go and compile the information myself. But we need to know, for example, how many Virgin Islanders own land, and how much of that land is mortgaged to the banks, and what those mortgages look like, and what is the cost of those mortgages. So we could know, in the event that a situation develops where we stand to lose all our land, would we be able to buy that land back collectively?
Well, I mean, with the protocols that we're on right now, I'm not sure how much buying or anything we're going to be able to buy, because we basically need about $60 million in the reserve fund, and we don't have that much in there right now.
So we got another $40 million to go.
But I would like to see us quantify actually the amount of money that we're going to lose in the economy if people outsource the jobs to Asia. Because it's going to have a domino effect, as you rightly stated. Just think of all of those salaries per year. That's money that's actually being taken out of your economy, and that was being spent in your economy in a lot of ways.
Thank you, my brother, for hanging with me.
Thank you for having me. It's an important discussion, and hopefully people are not frightened to have the discussion. I hope that the reason why people didn't call in is because they were listening attentively and developing their thoughts on the matter, and that at a later occasion they'll be willing to participate in the discussion. Because trust me, we can't wait until things actually happen
We
to
have
decide.
we have to prepare ourselves.
Yeah, we have to prepare ourselves for the worst eventuality and hope for the best. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yes. Next week we are going to put the spotlight on the condition of our environment. You know, because one of the things that we do is we talk about environmental conditions, the beach erosion, the garbage that's piling up. You know, we talk about the environment, but we don't quantify the damage. And I have come to be a real believer in data, in statistics, in facts. You know, when you talk about facts that's undisputed, you know, that's where the real credibility is for me. And I'm going to have, next week, we're going to have Charlotte McDevitt. She's an environmentalist. She's the director of
Green
VI. And she's going to be here, and she's done a lot of research and gathered the statistics about things like how much have our coral reefs been deteriorated, how much remain. It's a really important factor because we depend on people going around to the reef snorkeling and having a good experience when they come to the BVI. How much erosion have our beaches experienced? How much garbage is actually piled up all around the place, and what is that doing to our environment, not just in terms of unsightliness, but in terms of degrading the earth and the environment, and being able to grow produce and a whole lot of other factors. You know, our water supply, how much is it contaminated? You know, how dangerous is that? So there's and we're going to see data. This percentage of the reefs are gone. This percentage of the earth is polluted. This percentage of garbage remains non-recyclable. So there's going to be some real data to give us a good picture of where we are environmentally, because we are under the impression, perhaps, I don't know, when we're falsely so, that we are still pristine. You know, and we might be in for a rude awakening. So you tune in to Spotlight next Tuesday right here on JTV channel 55, and we're going to talk about our environment and do an assessment of where we are environmentally. Also, you can catch all of Spotlights on jtvlive.net. So if you miss something tonight, you can go back and check it out. Or if you missed a show last week or the week before, you can go back and see that as well. I want to thank you for watching. Thanks for your comments, your criticisms, your words of encouragement. I want you to continue to email me at jtvspotlight@yahoo.com. I can't remember my own email address, so that we could hear from you. I'm Edrenka, reminding you that when the spotlight is on, you see the facts. Peace and blessings.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Roadtown, Tortola, BVI.